But yeah, let's let everybody see it. Crank this up. Okay. Ready, Jesse?
Yeah.
Okay. It's 9 o'clock, and it's time on our schedule to meet on a proposed proclamation that Scott and I put together with respect to the stage 2 requirements and some of the other baggage that goes along with it, and some of my concerns at least, and we'll see if anybody else is concerned. I'm going to go ahead and just start by.
This is muted.
Oh, right, that's only for people coming talking.
Oh, is it showing red?
Yeah,
Showing right.
That's weird. Right now.
that was only muted for people calling in, then, right?
No. Huh.
Muted for
It was a
everybody.
good start. I mean, you can, now you got it
Now
down.
I can't repeat it.
Let's see. Hit the button and see what happens. I'm showing.
Oh, it's just closed off.
I'm still showing. Yeah, I was showing audio here before anyway, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, I thought that was that would only told us if someone was, you were opening up for someone to call in.
It should be. Yeah, it should be. Blue. I'm gonna check it. I'm just gonna check it on YouTube. I'm gonna check it on YouTube here.
Okay.
It's on now.
Oh, is it?
No, it isn't.
It was muted.
It'll be blue.
Oh, it'll be blue.
Let me unplug it and plug it back in. Sometimes that does the trick.
Hear it? Claire, if you can hear it, run in here really quick and say something.
Yes, you can hear.
You can hear it? Yes, I thought it was only lit up when someone.
Okay, so we'll ignore the red lights today, I guess.
Raised hand.
Okay.
So in that case, then I'm not going to bother repeating what I just said, but let
I
me.
can hear it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's wait for Commissioner Bradshaw to come back in. You like an advertisement, we can play your music, we can play it on the standstill.
Right.
Okay, so I just want to open this by saying, you know, I've had concerns all along with the shutdown, with the arbitrary and capricious nature of what businesses are essential, what businesses aren't. The lack of logic behind it, quite frankly. I mean, how is it 2,000 people a day going through Walmart not dangerous, but you can't go get your haircut because that's somehow dangerous? But we played along on the 21-day order, and then it got extended. And now we've got these stages for reopening that appear to have some real issues with them altogether. I mean, it's basically becoming an unrestricted, unjustified rule order by fiat. It looks like the governor is devolving his authority to lesser branches, to local municipalities, cities, counties, health districts, whereby he set a standard for a minimum standard, but allowing them to ratchet it up without the ability to ratchet back down if the science and the local staff show that we have the ability to. We're down to one county in the state. The entire state's being judged by the effects of one county, Blaine County, when in fact the science and the local stats don't show it. This is specifically talking to stage 2 and some of the language we found in there that was a little disturbing. But there's no reason for us to think this doesn't extend to the other stages. And so I think it's time, it's our responsibility as elected officials, we swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the U.S., the Constitution of the state of Idaho. And I think it's incumbent upon us as representatives of the people to at least take an action to let the governor know that we have some real concerns. And that's kind of the basis of this proclamation. It goes through and gives some real detail with respect to statements out of their own documents, actions created out of their own document, and how, at least how I see them. I'll open it up for the commissioners to comment.
Well, to start with, I have a real concern that I didn't get this latest draft until 8 o'clock this morning. And it's a fairly, there's a lot to it. And as far as I'm concerned, before I can sign on to anything, I'd have to research the stuff that's in this document and confirm what's being said. I have no knowledge. You guys have been working on this. I don't know about Steve, but I was never involved in any of that or even aware of what was going on until real recently. So it makes it hard for me to be as versed on this. I mean, other than what's been coming out from the CDC, from the president, and down to the governor, which is chain of command. And as far as I'm concerned, I mean, this comes from not just the governor, it comes from the president and the 3 stages that CDC has identified. And this is modeled, the governor's 4 stages are modeled off of that. And there's a couple things that just pop right up, and stage 2 is over on Saturday midnight. If that does, if it occurs that way, if the governor goes with what he's stated, is it will be into stage 3. And then by June 13th, stage 4 should kick in, so I'm not exactly sure what we're trying to accomplish here. And how, so are we saying that we're just going to ignore, or we're going to challenge him or I don't know what is the,
Well,
what
so
is the
let me
purpose of
back up a little bit first. I didn't get the final draft until this morning at 8 o'clock. It's only 3 pages, or 2 3/4 pages.
Right, but it's
It's pretty
referring
simple
to certain
reading.
things.
Right, and it's actually got good reference points in it. If you want, we can recess and you can read it first, but go, Scott.
Commissioner McDonald and Commissioner, can I just give a quick outline?
Yeah, go ahead.
Dan McDonald did ask me to look into this, and in my opinion, as to its legality. And you are right, Commissioner Conley, that there are 4 stages. This is a stage 2 order, it's not stage 3 order, it's not stage 4 order, and it's not a future order either. So I reviewed it on that basis. What I was concerned about is there's 2 paragraphs that I looked at, focusing on the most. There's paragraph 1 of the order, and there is paragraph 11 of the order. And paragraph 1 basically stated that, quote, the scientific evidence shows at this stage of the emergency, it is essential to slow virus transmission as much as possible. So it seemed like the previous focus of prior orders was to protect healthcare capacity. And what we found out over time is that healthcare capacity in North wasn't really, didn't have any impending threats, at least in terms of ventilators, the kind of risks that were initially talked about. So when I looked into it, just reading this statement by itself, it is essential to slow virus transmission as much as possible. Well, if you look at the face of the order, it looks like the order is all shoulds, not shall. It doesn't look mandatory. It looks like it's making recommendations. And so at first blush, it didn't appear to be infringing on any fundamental liberties, because it's simply saying that, hey, we want to reduce infection as much as possible. But it's all about, you may, you should, not that you must. Well, looking at that alone looking at paragraph 11, that's key to the critique, is that paragraph 11, I'm going to quote it full, it says, to decrease the spread of COVID-19. That's decreasing the spread as much as possible, looking back at paragraph 1. The cities, counties, and public health districts of the state of Idaho may enact more stringent public health orders than those set out in this order. So what paragraph 11 is very neat, and it seemed kind of buried and put towards the end. But what it seems to be doing is laying the foundation for the local government to start imposing any and every mandate under the authority of the governor's order. So basically it's saying localities can issue orders. And the orders are a one-way ratchet. They can only be more stringent. Now, when you look at that, when you look at that with the State of Idaho Testing Task Force on May 20, 2020, they came out with the COVID-19 testing recommendations. And apparently they've taken tens of millions of federal dollars to have local communities enforce a pretty robust contact tracing program. Well, and I believe there's grants, there's locality taking grants, even in northern Idaho, for the purpose of using your telemetry on your cell phones and using other methods to contact trace. Well, why are they contact tracing? This is a program that's being unfolded over a period of time. This is going to be several months, maybe a year. Well, what it appears that the governor is doing, we don't know this, but in the next stages, I don't anticipate paragraph 11 to be removed. I'm only speculating, it's only in stage 2, but what's going on is local governments are taking grants and their power to pass orders under the governor's authority to essentially order people to be quarantined, order people to be isolated. Here's an example. Bonner County is in the city of Sandpoint. If the city of Sandpoint, I'm sorry, the city of Sandpoint is in Bonner County. Well, the Bonner County admin building is in the city of Sandpoint. So if the city of Sandpoint makes an order that requires employers of about a certain size within its city limits, including Bonner County, to be tested and to quarantine, that would include all of our employees. And we have a constitutional question as to whether we can require our employees to have invasive testing. And in the testing regime, if you read the proclamation draft, refers to these COVID-19 testing recommendations. They are rigorous. They are.
So have you read the 3 stages of the CDC?
Yes, I have. Well, but
where do you think this comes from?
So,
Well, and the thing, I want to correct something. This is not coming from Trump. You can go back to Trump's speeches and his press conferences for the last few months, and he said, open up, open up, open up.
Yeah, but he says with these guidelines.
No, in fact, he's been encouraging governors to open up. He said, you're empowered to do so.
So if you look at the CDC
Yeah.
3 states.
But the nice thing about it is that when you look through here, you don't see the CDC or the WHO reference anymore.
Yeah, but in here you do.
You don't see it in here, and you don't see, and there's a great number of other things that you don't see in these documents.
this is not the CDC's order, nor is it recommended.
It's guided by it. It's the principles come from
Right.
the CDC, which, yeah, maybe that's not President Trump, but it's his guidance, or he's telling CDC what.
I disagree.
Okay.
In this memo, what this memo basically states is that as I read it, that the governor's orders combined with the COVID testing plans mandates the full elimination of all COVID cases in Idaho, pursuing that, local governments pursuing that with complete, with full efforts. Because it's saying minimize infection transmission as much as possible.
Right.
It's putting that on the localities. There's nothing in the CDC or WHO recommendations that states that says that states should be essentially attempting to impose very intrusive by mandate, an intrusive contact tracing program followed by isolation and maybe separation of families. In Washington State, they're doing that.
I think you're assuming all kinds of different things there. And I mean, I'm not saying that I have all the answers, but I think you're making assumptions that there's no way you can prove that. You can't even, that's the things that I want to research and make a few phone calls to. And to contradict what you just said about CDC, it's referred to in stage 2 twice right there.
Yeah, what you also, if you read the actual stage 2 order, what they use for evidence is called social proof. It doesn't say science, doesn't say local statistics, doesn't say facts on the ground, it says social proof. And that's actually included, the definition of social proof is included in this. Will you read that, Scott?
Well, exactly. I mean, to me, the issue is this, is that when you're going to authorize, where I think the unconstitutional move is made, infringes fundamental liberty, is when the governor delegates and devolves all of his power to over 1,000 local cities, to 44 counties, to impose any order to minimize infection as much as possible. To me, that is an illegal delegation of power. It is massively intrusive when you look at the scope of the COVID-19 testing recommendations, May 20, 2020. It is just my legal opinion, and I put it in here. I believe it's unconstitutional on its face. I think you can analyze it. If you read this carefully, you haven't had benefit of reading it. And I disagree entirely. The CDC did not tell the governor to do this. He will not, yes, the CDC has information. The CDC recommends certain aspects of the program, but the CDC did not recommend pursuing the goal of eliminating all COVID cases in Idaho to the maximum extent possible. That is a completely
Though it does talk about you should have lesser or 2 weeks rule, stage 2 of CDC rule of that you should show no increase over a 2-week period before you go to the next stage.
But the
These
key
are all
is,
from
what
the
you're
Fed.
missing is the should, shall distinction. What the government, if it was just a should, you're right, the should is not a big deal.
And I stated that. I stated the fact that it's recommendations. I didn't say it was a law.
But the
I didn't
state
say-
has enabled the local governments to order this under criminal
This
penalties.
is the big element. of it.
Let me read the criminal penalties, There's a criminal penalty provision here that's pretty heavy. That if the cities and counties, start making orders under the governor's authority, paragraph 8 of the order says the violation of any mandatory provision of this order constitutes an imminent threat to public health. Violation of or a failure to comply with this order may constitute a misdemeanor punishable by fine, imprisonment, or both pursuant to Idaho Code 56, 1037C. Well, there's no mandatory provisions in the order except through paragraph 11, which gives the locality the governor's power to issue mandatory orders. That's the problem. The governor, if he wants to issue mandatory orders, then he can do it. He can do it. But when he delegates all of his power to over 1,000 cities and 44 counties who don't have the capacity to engage in constitutional infringement balancing, they don't have the legal departments like the governor has, it's ridiculous. And then he says, pursue a goal to eliminate COVID cases in Idaho. That's insane. I think that's constitutionally suspect, and I think the memo proves it.
Okay, so we can probably have this discussion for hours. So what does this do?
All it does is it just kind of fires a shot back. It just says, if you read it, you'll see the conclusion.
I've read it.
Yeah, so then you know what it does. It says we won't be following the directive.
Well,
Who's we? But we don't
The council.
control the municipalities.
Right.
Actually-
All we control is ourselves, but we're just letting the governor know that we disagree with this
So
order.
it's just a political.
Go ahead.
Commissioner
it's a
McDonald, it's not just-
political
No, it's
statement.
not really a political stage.
It is.
No, listen, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but
I think
there's a lot of businesses that have been having a lot of problems because of these orders. Now, we haven't been affected as elected officials. We still keep getting paid, but these business owners aren't. Their employees are not.
I agree.
And we're elected to protect their rights. And this is a clear infringement on their
And
rights.
for you to insinuate that I'm not worried about the business of Bonner County.
I didn't insinuate anything.
Is
But I
insane.
don't know how one can have sat in this office, in this seat, and looked at what's gone out in the community and not have a concern over what we're reading
I have a concern.
in all this.
I have a concern.
And why not, and why wouldn't we as elected officials stand up and try to take the lead? We're here to
What does
lead.
this do? What is
This
this
says
gonna
that
accomplish?
Bonner County will not comply. We're trying to push back on them and get it to stop and think. And we're pointing out where what's been done is unconstitutional. We swore an oath. Did we swear an oath, Steve?
Yeah, and it doesn't expire when we expire.
Right.
It's a constitutional argument that could be had.
Well, Commissioner Conley,
This doesn't prove that it's,
If not the
this is
commissioners,
a
then who?
constitutional argument.
Pardon?
If not the commissioners, then who?
Right. Yeah, if we don't take a stand, who's going to do it?
Commissioner McDonald, Mr. McNair, just
Please.
here.
Oh, who?
The conclusion states the BOCC will not be following the directives set forth in this order. Bonner County, as other counties in this state, have been directed to do everything possible to minimize infection, and have been given the governor's powers through delegation paragraph 11. If you're going to follow that.
But
order-
only to ratchet up and not ratchet down.
Exactly, but if you're going to follow that directive of the governor, then you need to take the contact tracing money from the state and implement a robust contact tracing program throughout unincorporated Bonner County. So what this states is that because the opinion of your legal advisor, prosecutor's office, is that this is unconstitutional, we're recommending that you don't follow that directive, that you don't take the state's money, that you don't implement the unincorporated countywide contact tracing program, because it infringes on the liberties for a goal of eliminating all COVID cases, which is absurd.
I think we've already taken this thing.
For contact tracing programs?
No,
Yeah.
we've taken money.
But not
for
for
contract.
the
There's
purpose of
actual
the
grant, it's just for contract.
Yeah, you have to read the contact
So-
tracing recommendations.
Yeah.
This is basically suggesting that other counties are doing this. They are taking money to implement a robust contact tracing program in their unincorporated territory. If you're going to follow the directive, you're going to do the same thing. So what this is basically saying is that appears to be unconstitutional.
So at the end of stage 2, I don't know that you ever answered the question. I mean, like it's more than likely, it's very probable that it will end, and we'll go to stage 3 at midnight on Saturday.
But the stage 3 order, I haven't seen a stage 3, stage 4, stage 5 order.
They don't
And I
have
can only surmise that this will be there. Now, if it's not, no problem. But
Then then why would we do this for like a 2-day release?
well, because we have actual knowledge,
3 days.
we have actual knowledge that the state has taken tens of millions of dollars to impose a statewide contact tracing program. They're using localities to do it. Now, how they use localities, they're mandating, directing localities to do it or not. The fact is, this is going on, it infringes on rights, and the goal is to eliminate all COVID cases. That shift the goalpost so far, it's unbelievable.
Right.
To invade all those liberties for the end of eliminating COVID-19. That's not a constitutionally, there's no compelling government interest to eliminate each and every case, especially given that we don't have the science to do it. And so they're going to go invade, potentially let local governments decide what level of invasion of rights, 1,000 different cities and 44 counties to make those independent decisions without adequate legal staff to do the weight, to weigh the liberty infringement, to weigh the benefit, when the state has all the scientific resources and legal resources to do this. Well, this
The
is a
cities in
massive.
Bonner County would still be able to do that.
That's why I recommend that you make records requests to the cities in Bonner County, to other North Idaho counties, and find out what programs, what they are doing, so that you can kind of have a sense of what you may be expected to do by the governor, by the state in the near future. So you're right, this is just a stage 2 order. But the reason I think it's significant is that we know that the contact tracing program is very well financed.
And it's going to extend beyond stage 2, clearly.
Yeah, and it,
So why wouldn't we at least wait until the new stage comes out and we can see what goes along with that? And the reality of it is.
because my recommendation is.
So is it for further stages also then? Is it, or is it, the way you've got it written, it's exclusive to stage 2?
Well, it's only exclusive to stage 2 because they haven't put out any of the standards for stage 3.
No, I know, but why would you
So
not
it's all we have
wait?
to work on.
Why would you not
The reason I
wait
would
until
wait-
Saturday and see what comes up?
It's for the employees of Bonner County that work within the San Francisco Limited Part, because I believe that we have no reason to believe that the city of San Point wouldn't basically require testing for all, people who work within city limits. And that includes county employees, and that's a litigation matter, because all of a sudden we have fundamental rights for our employees, forced testing for our employees. And if there is a vaccine developed, forced vaccinations potentially, ordered by the city of San Point or the government, we don't know. But if we think that's going too far, because they're trying to eliminate all cases of COVID, that is not a achievable end.
Right.
And it's intrusive to fundamental liberty.
And why wouldn't we do it now? It doesn't hurt to do it now. It's proactive.
Exactly.
Well, it's not really proactive. We should have done this a while back, but now we're faced with it. Let's deal with it. Let's let the governor know, hey, listen, we're not going to participate. Nor will we participate in any kind of forced testing in stages 3 or stages 4 or thereafter.
And what's nice about this is that this is just our opinion as a government entity. We're not bringing in action and spending tens of thousands of dollars to litigate this through the courts. What we're simply doing is declaring our initial position that, hey, if there's going to be impositions on our employees and on the citizens of unincorporated Bonner County, we have every reason to believe that this COVID-19 testing recommendations from the Idaho Testing Task Force, that there's going to be lots of mechanisms coming into place. They're saying so much. Read the document. They're saying that this is going to be state law. So if you come out early and you make a statement that, hey, look, we think this is suspect constitutionally. We think this invades fundamental rights for an end that cannot reasonably be achieved scientifically, the elimination of all COVID. I mean, the statement of paragraph 1 that he said is to reduce transmission as much as possible. Well, what does that mean? That means every effort, as much as possible, is maximize efforts to minimize to elimination COVID. Well, that allows the most robust contact tracing, forced, compelled contact tracing program imaginable.
Those are all assumptions.
No,
It's
it's in the COVID-19 testing recommendation. It's in the recommendation. Read the recommendation. We're planning on upping the testing to about 140,000 tests per week. Idaho's population is less than 2 million. Last I checked. 140,000 per week. That's not small scale.
And I guess one of the things that really bothered me too about this whole process is it seems like the goalposts continue to get moved. First it was let's reduce the curve. We did that the first 21 days. We reduced the curve. now it's, okay, no, wait a minute, now we have to have more testing. That's, oh, no, we can't be, well, Lowell said it correctly, he said, we can't be back to normal until we have a vaccine.
I'm gonna say something, I'm gonna read this, and, because they keep changing the goalposts and moving it. At the end of this, you should be able to clearly see where that goalpost is gonna end up. This came in an email yesterday, and I've got a copy of it from several other people who have seen it and sent it our way. Opposition to mandatory inoculations, mandatory medical testing, and contact tracing. Reopen all businesses immediately without restrictions. We have witnessed the largest outright suspension of our freedoms and liberties under a form of medical tyranny. This tyranny is not based on scientific data, medical facts, or precedent. We have been relatively compliant and very patient. Typically, we are a polite and tolerant society while addressing differences and grievances, and we wish for only peaceful and nonviolent solutions. As the situation unfolds involving coronavirus, there is increasing evidence the goal of some authority figures is not the health of society. They desire control and domination over society using tactics of fear along with threats of force and violence. Government and non-government organizations have discussed whether a coronavirus vaccine should be mandatory. Although we may disagree as to the safety, efficacy, and religious implications of vaccinations, free people have a God-given human birthright to protect ourselves and our children from chemical assault with a needle, whether administered from a government agency, medical doctor, or common thug. For many, forced vaccinations, mandatory medical testing, and contact tracing are a line in the sand that cannot be crossed. The results of such actions against the will of a free people would create a complete and permanent breakdown of trust for support of our elected officials and law enforcement professionals. I am opposed to the governments who would force anyone to be vaccinated or tested for the coronavirus against their will. Surveillance through contact tracing and restricting our right to peaceably gather are in violation of our constitutional liberties without due process. Allowing one business to open while using force and violence against another to remain closed is discrimination and a violation of our civil rights. Many citizens of this state are closely monitoring the behavior of those who are responsible for oppressive behavior. Stand with the citizens of Bonner County by upholding your oaths of office, protect our medical privacies and freedoms, protect our local food supply and economy by stopping the complete and immediate reopening of all businesses without restrictions. Please show your leadership and speak out against anyone who would carry out grievous acts against us now and in the future. And I'm doing so now, and I would agree 100% with that person's letter. The Constitution of the United States is not a living document that you can bend, contort, or constrict to suit your personal needs. If you read these guidelines and these reopening orders, this is not anything new. If you've studied world history, there was a young man that implemented this same system in 1934. His name was Adolf Hitler. My father, uncles, and many of your family members went and fought a world war against a tyrannical dictator that would seek to instill a one world order. And this is exactly where this is headed. And to say that this is just for the safety of the people is very naive and very uneducated at best. I will stand with the citizens of Bonner County with every breath of life I have. All the skills, talents, and means that I have acquired in my 65 years of life will be at the disposal of our Bonner County Sheriff, who I believe to be a constitutional patriot. I will assist him, aid him in any realm that he would call to protect the citizens of Bonner County. I will not bend, I will not bow, and I will not be dictated to when it comes to the constitutional rights and God-given rights of Bonner County for me, my family, and anybody else in the United States. So that's where I stand on this issue. I agree 100% with this proclamation. From where I sit, it's a little soft. There comes a time when a man's got to stand, and he's got to stand for something. And if he's not going to stand for what's right, then he needs to go somewhere else. If he doesn't like the Constitution of the United States of America, I recommend that they get a passport and move and try out somewhere else. But I don't want to see the people of Idaho, Bonner County, or anywhere else dictated to about who gets the vaccine, how they're going to implement it, when I need to, when I'm not to. Jeff's essential, Scott's not essential. That is insane at best to say that someone's not essential. According to whose guideline is someone not essential? At what point did we elect Brad Little to be God over the state of Idaho or anybody else? It's time that the people of America acted like Americans and said, no, we are not going to be run over, we're not going to be controlled, and we're not going to be dictated to. And that would probably conclude where I stand on this issue. And I'll listen to you two guys wrestle out the rest of it.
I'm not sure you made your point.
What are you trying to say?
I'll work. And I have to give credit to Daryl as well, because this, it kind of came about when Daryl got hold of me and asked me to Scott and I, because he knew we shared concerns with respect to this. And the last concern, and maybe Scott, you can elaborate on this, is the result of this testing that would technically become forced testing and how it would be dealt with respect to employment. I mean, this,
And
when you read through this, when I read through this document, it makes my toes curl.
right, and I think there's an issue in private employers. There's a part of this, part of the testing recommendations. There's a group out there on page. Let's see. If you look at. Well, anyway, there is a group out there that's working to coordinate private employers and force testing in their private employees. And I think it potentially obtain determination. So this program doesn't just affect us as a public entity, our employees' constitutional rights, to not have invasive testing, invasive forced vaccine, forced isolation. It has to do with private employers. And there is a separate set of constitutional questions for those private employers. I expect to see from this COVID-19 testing recommendations from the State of Idaho Testing Task Force, it appears they're laying the foundation to impose this testing and potentially vaccination through employers, private and public.
Appears assumptions.
It's not.
Right, so what?
Continue to state what's your assumption of what you're reading out of that. It's like Steve is insinuating that I don't support the Constitution. Well, of course I support the Constitution, but anybody can take it and read what they want and twist it into what they think it says. So everybody has a constitutional right to question whether this is constitutional or not. You can't stand up here and say, this is unconstitutional. That's for a court to decide. You can say it, but what makes it any more than I say it is constitutional?
But I guess, well,
I mean,
you'd have to have facts to support your argument.
And where we think.
But you'd have to have facts to support that argument. But I think the point
Well,
here is, the point here is,
please.
if there's even a minuscule chance that this thing could turn sideways, why wouldn't we plant a flag on the ground and say, hey, we don't want to follow this order.
Let's
We're not
do
going
this.
to.
Let's wait until we see what the governor does with stage 3. Let's see
Let's do
what.
this. Let's pass this. So we send a signal to them saying, hey, listen, we see a problem with what's going on here. Maybe you're not seeing it, but we see a problem.
It appears as if the best case scenario, level 3 will be this may be softened, but still completely egregious.
And you know that how?
Daryl, do it.
I would say it's impossible to be otherwise. How could it possibly be?
Well, because of an assumption.
No, so let me
when
say
you read
something.
through this, I mean, it clearly lays out a roadmap. I mean, Scott, I hadn't seen it before. Scott gave it to me. I started reading through it. I'm thinking, okay, it'll be interesting to see what's in there. I'm going, holy crap. This is a clear roadmap. Go ahead, Daryl, you have a comment.
Yeah, Sheriff Darrell Wheeler for the record. Brad Little has abandoned his rightful roles on governor by suspending the Bill of Rights. we have no obligation to follow him, and I fully support this proclamation.
So again, in the email that Steve stated, it's making an assumption that we can tell the businesses that they can open regardless.
We aren't doing
don't have that authority.
We aren't taking that authority.
Well, I just want to make that clear.
Right, no, we're not. In fact,
In there, it's like, you need to open these businesses. That, most of them lie within the.
right, but that's not what's in the proclamation. One of the discussions Scott and I had was, I said, because we both agreed there's some liability if we were to actually come out and say, hey, you can open, and then the state pulls their license, then we're liable. So we clearly stayed away from that in here. We're just saying that, listen, for our part in this, for what the governor and these documents has said that we will do or could do or should do, we aren't going to participate. We think it's wrong.
And it has definitely got some problems, but again, I want to see what they come up with in stage 3 before I make the assumption that this is all going to carry forward. So at stage 3, if all of these things that you're thinking are going to happen are still in there, I'd be like, okay.
But, what'd you say?
No, I mean, it sounds like everybody's stuck in call for vote.
Right. Yeah, because my thing is, why wait till stage 3 or stage 4? Because if next month and we're in stage 3, we're going to say, okay, now let's wait for stage 4. Let's go ahead and plant a flag in the ground and say, listen, we see a problem with it. Governor Little, here are the issues. We've outlined them. We've referenced your own documents. We've used your own language. We've used your own lack of evidence. You need to look at this. You've got a problem.
Well, this proclamation is only restricted to stage 2, so
Right.
it'll expire tomorrow anyway. But it'll have the symbolic effect. It'll have the symbolic effect, though, stating that, hey,
Right.
look.
That's what I said, this is just pure political.
No.
Well,
it's actually
if
not
it
political.
expires tomorrow,
It's
we'll
not
pass it
political.
today and.
And we can go ahead and extend it to the next
Commissioner
year as well.
Commissioner Conley, it technically expires tomorrow. This entire program, if you read the document, it's clear that this is a systematic, long-term program. And by making a statement that, hey, as written, the stage 2 order is unconstitutional, that proclamation sends a signal that, to the governor and to other localities, that if it continues down this road, it's going to be a problem. And
But he's not signaled that he's making any changes.
Yeah.
I mean, the conference calls we do with the weekly conference call, we're not seeing any signal that we're going to change course suddenly. And guess what? Everything we've noted is wrong. We're going to go and open things up.
And then also on getting constitutional opinions without a judicial order, we take constitutional positions all the time without a court deciding that is constitutional. That's actually how we litigate. We take a position that the Constitution says X, then we bring a case, we bring it up to the court.
Right, and the AG says otherwise, and blah, 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 blah.
Right, but the point is, you guys have a responsibility to interpret and apply the Constitution pending a judicial decision. And so this is within the scope of your authority and responsibility to interpret and apply the Constitution with inferior directives that come from you from any direction. And essentially every directive is inferior to the Constitution.
So do you run it past the AG?
I ran it by 3 separate attorneys. Buckalter, I ran it by Buckalter. They are litigating this in California for several localities. They looked it over. They thought it was sound. They thought the reason was sound. I ran it by Heather Yakeley, our employment attorney, and she thought that we faced potential employment litigation if Bonner County forces employees to be tested. And I ran it by another attorney as well. So this has been very.
But not the AG. You
No,
haven't reached out to talk.
no, because the AG is the advisor. Obviously, the AG.
Let me know when we get one.
To the extent the AG is advising the governor, I can tell what his position is. The AG's
Yeah.
opinion, the AG's opinion is not binding.
But maybe you would have brought something forth that they hadn't thought of, like you think that this is some new information or a new way to
And I'm
look.
certainly willing to hear from the AG. The AG is a very intelligent person. However, this Commissioner McDonald asked me to look into it, to do the research. I circulated through my normal private channels, and this is what I came up with.
Well, the AG hasn't really taken a position after that first initial position when we had the 21-day shutdown. We haven't heard a lot out of the AG.
That
I haven't heard anything out
that
of the
may be
AG.
true. That may be true. This is just the opinion of the county prosecutor's office after conferring with our normal private counsel. If you guys require to go to the AG, certainly we can ask the AG.
Like I said, I think the likelihood, I mean, quite frankly, I say we do this, it's a directive, we're just saying, hey, we don't want to follow it. If the governor has an issue with it, then he can tell us why, and he can go through and he can disprove anything in this document.
You know, even if it's only good for a day, this is gonna be heard throughout the state of Idaho, and I think other counties are gonna say, hey, there's something to pay attention to, or maybe we have to do the same thing.
I agree. And that was really my original intent, was to kind of let it views get, because I got some response back on my email, find some private response saying, hey, listen, we're up for it. We see the problem with this as well. So as always, it always just takes someone to actually finally put something together. Okay. Is there any other comment? I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we go forward with this proclamation on Idaho's Stage 2 Stay Healthy Order.
Okay. Do I have a second? Okay, I will step down from the chair and second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And it is 9:41. We're going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting.
I'd like to say nay.
Okay, go, sure, I'm sorry. And so Governor Conley, Commissioner Conley votes nay, and with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 9:41.